Happy September, folks, and welcome to episode 197 of #AskGSM here today for September 6th, 2017. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. Inching closer and closer to the big milestone 200th episode. I got big plans for it. Nothing officially announced yet. I should get a better idea in the weeks ahead. I know it's only 3 weeks away. We're getting closer and closer, like I said, but so I kind of got to finalize those plans in the near future. But nevertheless, that's 3 weeks from now. Today we're talking episode 197. A lot of great questions. Let's get right into it. But before we do so, if you want to send in a question, tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post. I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. Last but not least, be sure to drop a comment on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Let's get started here with the YouTube questions. Emmanuel A. from YouTube, and he talked about last week what were the comparisons between SmackDown in 2004 and 2017, so he kind of elaborates here. He says, to elaborate on the 2004 SmackDown comparison, one of, if not the biggest issue during 2004, was that SmackDown's roster, and by extension its quality, got decimated post-WrestleMania. Previous key players like Brock Lesnar, Chris Benoit, Edge, and Kurt Angle either left the company, moved to Raw, or got sidelined for most of the summer. Not helping was that unlike in 2002, new prospects like Rene Dupree, Kenzo Suzuki, and Mordecai failed to make an impact. Do you think that's affected SmackDown again in 2017? They lost stars like Dean Ambrose and The Miz in the shakeup, and new call-ups like Ty Dillinger and Mike Kanellis haven't been doing much of note. I wouldn't say it's quite as bad as it was in 2004. The biggest difference between 2004 and 2017 was that, like I talked about last week, the biggest similarity, in my opinion, in addition to what you just said, which is very true. Brock Lesnar left the company. I think Benoit got hurt. Edge got hurt, but he also went to Raw too. He got hurt in 2003, but he also got drafted to Raw. And then Kurt Angle had been gone. He had got hurt after WrestleMania, right at WrestleMania. But like I said last week, they're WWE champion at that time because they really did not have any other stars, and they didn't want to put the belt on. They didn't want to keep the belt on Eddie, and they didn't want to put the belt on the Undertaker just yet. Or they never put the WWE championship on Taker again. But anyway, it didn't really fit his gimmick at that point anyway. So they put the championship on JBL that summer. So this summer has really been no different, and then putting the belt on Jinder, a guy who really came out of nowhere as a main event player. I think JBL fit that role better than Jinder. JBL was never an instant classic, like a Matt Classic wrestler or anything, but I thought most of his matches during that time period were at least pretty good. The Jinder matches, I can't name one really good match he's had. Maybe like that one SmackDown match he had with Orton on SmackDown a few weeks ago in Canada, which he lost for some odd reason. But other than that, his matches have largely bored me, and his promos are all the same. JBL had a bit more variety in his promos and in his in-ring work, and I don't know, it seemed like JBL was more motivated to put on good matches and have good feuds, and he got over as this vulnerable heel champion because you thought he could be beat, and he was constantly getting himself DQ'd. He was a cheap-ass heel, but he got great heat. Jinder's just not the same thing. I talked about that last week. What I'm trying to say now is that back then, you didn't really have any other players to put that belt on, other than maybe Eddie, who was already champion, and The Undertaker. Today, look at all the other people you could have put the WWE Championship on, other than frickin' Jinder Mahal. You have AJ Styles, who the belt should have gone right back to anyway, after Orton, but regardless. You have AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, who shouldn't have been champion when he first got called up, but he could have been champion at SummerSlam. Styles, Nakamura. You could have kept the belt on Orton. He wasn't a great champion, but he's a lot better than Jinder, I thought, or I think, personally. Jinder, Orton, Styles, Styles, Nakamura, Orton. You had John Cena before he went to Raw. Who else is there? Kevin Owens. There's a lot of potential players they could have put in that title picture, not named Jinder Mahal. I mean, even Luke Harper had his, brush with the main event scene a few months ago in the start of 2017 before being quickly demoted back to the undercard. Now he's not even on TV anymore. That's a whole other issue. But even he could have been a more believable contender to that championship than Jinder Mahal, in my opinion. So, I think SmackDown now is in a better place. They have a lot better talent than they did in 2004. Like you said, Ty Dillinger and Mike Kanellis aren't really moving the needle much, but you do have Shinsuke Nakamura. You also have Bobby Roode coming to SmackDown. That's two pretty big pickups for SmackDown from NXT. So it's not quite as bad as it was in 2004, but I could see what you mean that post-WrestleMania, they've quickly fallen off a cliff with the stars they sent to Raw. I still say Miz should have stayed on SmackDown. I think everyone believes the same thing. He should have not gone to Raw. He had no business going to Raw. He could have been a WWE champion on SmackDown. And he's done great work on Raw, but really, I mean, he should have stayed on SmackDown. He could have been the WWE champion right now, not Jinder Mahal. Captain Sunshine, also from YouTube, their question was, what are Heath Slater and Rhino doing on Raw? Slater was only on SmackDown because of a specific brand storyline where he had to win the SmackDown Tag Team title tournament with Rhino to earn a contract. Those guys were integral towards developing SmackDown's identity in the beginning of the brand extension last year. Nowadays, they're just the babyface version of Gallows and Anderson. Truer words have never been spoken in terms of being just a babyface jobber tag team, which is not. It says more about Gallows and Anderson than it does Heath Slater and Rhino. But anyway, I mean, it's not only a recent thing with Slater and Rhino that they haven't been used really well at all. I mean, they really haven't been on TV at all. They got jobbed out on Monday to Sheamus and Cesaro, as they should have. But this is not a recent phenomenon. WWE hasn't done anything with these guys for a long time now, for almost, I would say, close to a year. Like you said, they won the tag titles about a year ago, almost exactly a year ago at Backlash. And then they had a fun little run. They had their matches with the Usos and the Spirit Squad. And then, but even before they dropped the belts, like, you can go back and listen to this show, and people are sending me in questions saying, what's going on with Slater and Rhino? Like, why aren't they more of a focus on the show? Why aren't they even on the show? And I said, just wait till after Survivor Series. I know Survivor Series is all about the brand warfare and all that other shit. Maybe that's why they're not getting any focus on SmackDown right now. But even after Survivor Series, they really were not much of a focus on the show. It was more about the Wyatt family and American Alpha and the Usos and all the other tag teams. It really wasn't about Slater and Rhino. And then after they dropped the tag titles, they got the rematch, lost, and that was it. They even teased a split-up storyline, a breakup storyline with Slater and Rhino that went nowhere. And I'm glad they're still together. They're better together than they are apart, but they're not doing anything right now. They just got moved to Raw because they moved the Colognes to SmackDown. They just needed another tag team on Raw. So it's a shame to see what they've done to them. I could say, I mean, I've said before here on the show, the biggest underutilized star right now in WWE is probably more Luke Harper and guys like Ty Dillinger and guys like that on SmackDown. Slater and Rhino won't move the needle as tag team champions or a prominent tag team on Raw. But like you said, they were a pretty big focus of SmackDown when SmackDown first started up again as its own brand. And Slater was over. Slater was getting We Want Slater chants, and he still does from time to time, the whole We Want Kids shit. But yeah, it is kind of a shame that they've been reduced to a jobber tag team after really getting over for themselves around this time last year. Next question. As tired of a trope as can X and Y coexist is, I appreciate the Nia Jax and Emma versus Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks match for at least providing stakes and motivation for everyone involved. The only problem is the crowd didn't know how to react to it. Who are we supposed to cheer? On one side, you have the heels who don't like each other, and on the other side, you got a third heel and one face. The latter getting pinned by Emma, only for Emma to get beat up by Nia Jax, all to complete apathy. No, I completely agree. I thought the match, it was an alright match. The crowd could not have cared less about it. But I did like how we finally had a match that wasn't for a championship, that had high stakes. Like, it actually meant something, depending on who won. And I'm glad the heels are winning. I'm glad the heels won. Or, when I say heels and not heel Alexa Bliss, because like you said, we had that babyface heel dynamic on one team, and Nia Jax and Emma, who the crowd has been given zero incentive to care about. Emma, that is. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, I thought the way on paper it was a good idea, but then in execution, it didn't work because the crowd didn't care. The crowd really wasn't all that hot throughout the show anyway. But then again, they came alive for the main event between Big Show and Braun Strowman, so it's not like Corpus Christi bad, but still, I mean, so they really didn't have any excuse here. I thought the reason for the match, it made sense. It looked good on paper. It built towards the match at No Mercy, which I'm glad is a Fatal 4-Way. But, yeah, like you said, the crowd just didn't care because of the two heels and the one heel and a babyface. And It is nice they didn't tease tension between Alexa and Sasha, and they both wanted the win to ensure that their match at No Mercy was not a fatal 4-way. They failed. But still, like you said, it just not really sure it panned out the way they wanted it to. Their next question, should the Braun Strowman Big Show cage match be Big Show's last match? I don't mean that in a please retire way, I just think it brings everything full circle. We got a knockout punch, a choke slam, a top rope flying elbow drop, a superplex, and perhaps most poetically, Big Show being thrown through a cage wall. Remember, Big Show debuted in WWE by throwing a guy through a cage wall. Wouldn't it be perfect if his career ended the same way? Didn't even see anyone talk about that. I didn't even notice that. That's a great observation. I completely agree. I absolutely agree. I know they did that to write him off out of storylines because he has to go get like hip surgery or something. But I would have that be the end of his career. Like, what are you going to do anyway? Like, Big Show retirement match at WrestleMania where he goes off by winning the championship? You don't really do that with Big Show. I think the way that he went out on Raw this past week was phenomenal. The match was great. All the Big Show Braun Strowman matches, surprisingly, have been really, really fucking good. All 3 this year have been great. The finish was awesome. He put over Braun Strowman in a big way. And he's talked about it before on Jericho's podcast, and Braun too, that Big Show's really been a mentor of sorts for Braun Strowman, that we really have not had that signature big man in WWE. We've had Big Show, we've had Kane, we've had Mark Henry, the Great Khali to a small extent. But beyond those guys, and they're pretty much all retired at this point, we have not had that big man replace the Big Show, or those other guys I mentioned. Braun Strowman can be that guy, and he's also really fucking good, and he's over. So putting him over on the way out, I thought was great. The match itself was really, really good. And the fact that he went through the cage wall by debuting, by throwing Stone Cold through the cage wall, what was it, 20 years ago? Not 20 years ago. Was it 20 years ago? No, I think it was 18 years ago. In, was it 1997, I'm pretty sure? Yeah, 1999, excuse me. 1999, February, Valentine's Day, 1999. And I think his contract's coming up soon anyway. I think he planned on retiring this past year at WrestleMania. He didn't, because the Shaq match didn't come to fruition. I doubt they're doing the Shaq match next year. Wouldn't really make as much sense after the build-up they gave to it leading into WrestleMania 33. And I don't know. I think that's probably the best way to go out. And this was a way better match. Like a Big Show Shaq match, I wanted more for the spectacle of it, not really for the fact that it would be a great match. Big Show's, the fact, with Big Show, it's less is more. Less is more with Big Show. And you guys know that in the past, I've been very critical of Big Show. Very, very critical of Big Show. And how he's been used and overexposed. But for the past year or two now, I would say, he's been used great. He rarely shows up. He shows up. He has great matches. He puts people over. And this was a prime example of that to the biggest degree. I thought he made Braun Strowman look like a beast and getting ready for Brock Lesnar. The match was great. And it was an awesome spot. Another GIF-worthy moment for Braun Strowman. So, yeah, that should be Big Show's last match. Not, like you said, not because he doesn't have it anymore, because he's terrible, or there's no opponents left for him, which is kind of true anyway. But because I think it was a perfect way of writing him out. And he went out like a hero with people chanting, "You deserve it," or "You still got it," or whatever. Which is funny, because a couple of years ago they were chanting, "Please retire." So it's just based on how they use Big Show. Those are the kind of chants that he gets, and it's kind of cool to see. But, I completely agree. I think we got everything out of Big Show, out of his arsenal in that match, from, like you said, the chokeslam, the flying elbow, the knockout punch, the superplex. It was perfect. I would have that be the end of Big Show's career as well. And the main event of Raw, no less, as well. Elena the Y, I was not expecting The Miz to have a great gimmickless match with Jeff Hardy where he would have won clean on Monday. Being the IC champion tends to be a curse nowadays. But I'm glad they threw Miz a bone. All that said, what's the plan for No Mercy? Is Miz just going to go back to Jason Jordan? I guess. That's the weird thing. The match I thought was great. It was a really, really good match with Miz and Jeff Hardy. Miz won relatively clean, which was also a pleasant surprise. But now where do you go from here? Do you do Miz and Jordan again? Which would make no sense, because Jordan's already lost to Finn Balor, John Cena, he lost the Battle Royal. The guy's a fucking loser. I'm not really sure why they cut that feud short to begin with. Maybe they thought it wasn't working, which it really wasn't, but at least they were trying to get Jordan over. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure what they do. It's not like Jeff Hardy lost after Miz cheated, and he kind of did, with Maurice pulling Miz out of the way to the Swanton Bomb. But other than that, I mean, he won relatively clean, so it's not that Jeff had an out for, he had an out for losing. He lost clean, as he should have. He's not being mishandled. I thought it was a great win for Miz. It doesn't do any damage to Jeff Hardy. I think he's perfectly fine. And not everyone beats Jeff Hardy clean, so that was a pretty big victory for Miz, I would say. But, yeah, I'm not really sure. I would assume Jordan's next in line, because I don't know what else you do. Do you do Miz and Nat Hardy or something? Like, he didn't really get involved all that much either, so I'm not sure. I guess we'll find out on Monday, but No Mercy's I think we only have 2 more Raws to go until the pay-per-view, so they have time, but it's going to feel like it came out of nowhere. So I'm glad they do these matches, and they advertise them in advance and all this other shit a week in advance, and that's great. And even Kurt Angle said, but he will be defending the championship at No Mercy. The Miz will be. So I'm not really sure. I guess he goes back to Jordan, but, like, why? The guy's a loser, so I guess we'll find out on Monday. I really have any inkling of an idea. Their next question. Well, why was Tony Nese in the Fatal 5-Way match on 205 Live? Enzo, Cedric Alexander, and Grand Metalik qualified by winning a 6-man tag team match twice, while Nese also qualified by losing said 6-man tag team matches. Was Mustafa Ali not available? I have no idea. I was thinking the exact same thing. They had Tony Nese. I'm pretty sure he took the pin on Monday, too, at the hands of Enzo. It might have been Drew Gulak. I might be wrong. But I'm pretty sure it was Tony Nese. And then literally no more than an hour later, they announced on Raw that tomorrow night on 205 Live, we have a Fatal 5-Way match, and they show Tony Nese. It's like, dude, the guy just got pinned in a fucking 6-man tag team match. The other 3, they didn't really qualify. They were just announced to be in the match, which is cool. But it was weird. I don't know. It was very, very odd. So, I mean, Nese was the first one gone anyway, so it's not like it made a huge difference. Kendrick beat Gallagher, Jack Gallagher, on the previous week's episode of 205 Live, so I could see why he was in it. But, yeah, like you said, Mustafa Ali, like even Arya Daivari, I think might have been a better pick for that match than freaking, Tony Nese, which was weird. Yeah, just consistency and logical storyline progression is not always WWE's strong suit. Let's just keep that in mind. The match was great, though, I should say. The match I thought was awesome on 205 Live. I will say that. Definitely check it out. I mean, Enzo won, unsurprisingly, but Cedric shined, and I really hope Cedric's the next Cruiserweight champion after Neville. The guy's fucking great. Jeremy B., we move into the Facebook questions now. Would you like to see a legacy-like stable with Charlotte, Tessa Blanchard, and Rachel Evers? You know what? That'd be a pretty cool idea. We've never really seen... When you really think about it, we haven't really seen a women's stable in WWE, have we? I mean, we've seen women tag teams, like the Bella Twins, the Divas of Doom. I know we've seen women tag teams back in the day, like even in the 90s and the mid-2000s. But we haven't really seen a women's stable, like Lay Cool being another tag team, but not really a women's stable. And you don't have to copy the exact same blueprint they did for Cody Rhodes, Ted DiBiase, and Randy Orton. But the talent is there. Rachel Evers is clearly inferior to the other two, but she can get better. Charlotte is obviously great. I think she would work well with the faction. I think she's better as a heel anyway. She hasn't been on TV in a while. I know her dad's getting better, but she was backstage at SmackDown for the past 2 weeks. They're just not using her now. Tessa Blanchard is really, really fucking good. Whatever gets her signed, I'm all in for. But I like that idea a lot. It's kind of like the Jinder and the Singh brothers of the women's division, where she kind of has these henchmen, or henchwomen, I should say, behind her to help her win matches. And she can win clean. That's been established in the past, but I think that would be way more interesting than Natalya as the SmackDown Women's Champion, or frickin' Tamina or Lana. They're not good heels. They all suck. Carmella's good. She's probably the best of the bunch, not in the ring, but as a character. But even she has her problems right now with James Ellsworth, and I'll talk about that soon. But no, I like that idea a lot. His second question, who from the Mae Young Classic do you think should be signed? A lot of women. I know Rhea Ripley, she really stood out to me, but I know she's already signed. Dakota Kai, too, the former Evie, who was also in NXT a while ago. I talked about them, I think, last week. But they had great showings in the Mae Young Classic. I would love to see them both signed. Or they already are signed is what I'm saying. I'm sorry. They're already both signed, which is great. Who I would like to see signed, I don't think she is. Jazzy Gabert, the one who was knocked out by Abby Lath in the first round. Lath is already signed. She's been signed for a while now. Gabert really surprised me with the showing that she had. And you talked about Gabert, I think Jeremy did, in a question last week, where Lana's... I think she was managing her and not Tamina, which was a way better idea than fucking Tamina. Tamina fucking sucks. But yeah, Jazzy Gabert I think was really, really good. She impressed me in the one match she had in the Mae Young Classic. Piper Niven, another unknown coming into the tournament for me, but she really exceeded my expectations. Not the whole weight thing, but I knew nothing about her, and she really made a lasting impression. I thought she had an amazing showing here. So definitely Piper Niven, Jazzy Gabert. Santana Garrett, I have no idea why she isn't signed. She's made a handful of appearances for NXT in the past, in like 2013, 2014, this past year, last year. Like, how is she not already signed? Is she like blacklisted or something? Like, she's on TV. So I don't get what the situation is, what the holdup is, but absolutely Santana Garrett. Maya Yim is another one. She's really, really good. Been a big fan of hers for a long time now. Maya Yim, absolutely. Tessa Blanchard, obviously, like I said before. Rachel Evers, unless she's a part of that stable, maybe not yet. She's not great yet. But Toni Storm, too, is another one that stood out to me. I think she's gorgeous. She's young. She's really, really good in the ring. She's got a great presence and charisma about her. So again, Jazzy Gabert, Piper Niven, Santana Garrett, Maya Yim, Tessa Blanchard, and Toni Storm are all women. There's probably more I'm forgetting, but those are all women I would love to see signed from the Mae Young Classic. Andre G from Facebook. I'm currently watching WWE from 2002, and The Undertaker lost his Hardcore Championship to Maven after The Rock interfered. My question to you is, do you see WWE doing another rookie beating a veteran for a championship within the rookie's first month? I mean, that could happen. I mean, it's happened a lot. I mean, Gail Kim, I think, did the same thing where she won a championship on her debut. I forgot who she beat, maybe Victoria. That was back in 2003. I mean, it's happened before. It could happen again. Paige was another prime example. That happened. She literally won the Davis Championship her first night in from, I mean, she wasn't a, I mean, I guess she kind of was a veteran when AJ Lee lost the belt to Paige. I mean, she had been in the WWE for about 4 or 5 years at that point, so, I mean, which is veteran status in WWE, because women do not typically last that long in the company, or at least they haven't in the past. But yeah, I mean, we've seen it before. I'm sure we could see it again. I mean, not only with the women, but with the men, too. If you wanted to do that with anyone, it would be cool for someone from NXT to do the same thing. I mean, I don't know who that would be, but I'm trying to think of who else is in NXT that could like come up and make a big splash on day one by winning a championship. I know one name comes to mind, but it could happen. You know what? Actually, here's a perfect example. I really hope they don't do this by putting him in the. Really hope they don't put him in the cruiserweight division, but I could see them doing it. Aleister Black. I said a while ago I could very well see arriving on Raw one day, beating Neville his first night in, and winning the championship. Because he did compete against Neville at the UK Tourney show, that event, that live special earlier this year. Not that they're really playing off that. He was Tommy End at that point, not Aleister Black. That was before he debuted in NXT on TV. But I could see them doing that if they put Black in 205 Live. I hope they don't. I think 205 Live is the kiss of death. But if they do, I could definitely see them doing that because that's kind of Aleister Black's gimmick where he kind of puts people away quickly. So I wouldn't be opposed to that if they do put him in the Cruiserweight division, but like I said, I hope they don't. Next question, do you see a tag team tournament happening in the near future? I do, the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. I mean, I think I've talked about this before, about the whole tag team tournament thing. I would like to see it. The thing is that a lot of the tag teams I would want to see in it are currently signed to other promotions. The Motor City Machine Guns, the Young Bucks, anyone from the Bullet Club, who the Young Bucks are from, but you know what I'm saying. The Addiction, even maybe the Tempura Boys, the Boys of Dalton Castle, maybe. Maybe not. They're not really more of a tag team. They're more of like sidekicks for Dalton Castle. But, I mean, a lot of the tag teams are awesome, but they're in Ring of Honor. War Machine's another one. There's some other tag teams in New Japan I know that aren't coming to me right off the top of my head right now. But, yeah, that's the thing. A lot of our best friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta would be another great tag team, or Roppongi Vice. The thing is that, like I said, they're already signed to other promotions, so they wouldn't be in the tournament. They would be a bunch of freaking indie tag teams that are good, but not as good as the tag teams I just mentioned. That's kind of where they got the best talent from all over the world for the Cruiserweight Classic and the Mae Young Classic and the UK Tourney and the UK guys. They didn't just settle for indie people because those people are assigned to other companies. So that's the biggest problem. The biggest problem right now, I would say, unless they work something out with the Ring of Honor, where they can bring them in for a one-night deal for the tournament. But for right now, let's just settle for the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. No announcement has been officially made yet in regards to the tourney. I haven't heard anything yet, but it usually starts around this time, if not... Yeah, it's usually in September. Usually it starts in September and culminates the next takeover. The next takeover isn't until November, so it could start in early October if they wanted it to, so they have some time. But I'm sure they're bringing that back after doing it in 2015 and 2016, respectively. Daniel C., also from Facebook, thoughts on some of the competitors in the Mae Young Classic who has the potential to be a future women's champion on the main roster. So, kind of like I said earlier, Kairi Sane, is already signed, but she's awesome. She could be a future champion for sure. She's fucking great. Toni Storm has just that, like I said, that charisma, that presence about her that really makes her stand out. So I think she'd be a great addition to the main roster at some point. Could be a future women's champion. Piper Niven is definitely different than anyone else I've seen from the women in a while in terms of her size, but she's also really fucking good. So maybe Piper Niven, Santana Garrett, Maya Yim. Really, any of the women I talked about earlier. Dakota Kai is still young. I think she's maybe 29. Rhea Ripley is like 20 years old. And she's gorgeous, and she's really fucking good. So, and she's already signed. So if they have her continue to hone her skills, continue to season her, she could be a future champion for sure at some point down the road, because she's still super young. So absolutely Rhea Ripley and all the others I just mentioned. Nick W. from Facebook, he's got a couple questions here. First one being, what do you think about Baron Corbin's actions backstage and his push being halted? So the whole report came out this week was that his push was halted not because of what he said on Twitter to Mojo Rawley and Dave Meltzer and all the others. It didn't help his case apparently, but that wasn't the sole reason why his push was taken away. Or because of John Cena, which was rumored at one point too. Maybe that was a contributing factor, but it wasn't the main reason. Apparently the main reason was that I think they had Dr. Joseph Maroon come in, who's from the concussion movie with Will Smith. You would know him if you saw him because they've shown him on WWE TV a bunch of times. He's, I think, kind of the go-to guy for surgeries, like big-time surgeries and whatnot. Anyway, so I think he came in to talk about concussions and whatnot, and Baron Corbin spoke up, and he spoke out. I don't think it was the fact that he spoke out or spoke up for himself. It was the fact and how he did it. And you know how Baron Corbin can come across sometimes if you've ever seen Breaking Ground or seen him outside of the ring. And he seems like a genuinely cool dude. I've met him myself. He was a great guy in person. But he seems like he's the type to speak his mind, and he's not, the Big Show yet. So he's not like at that level where he could speak out. He's only been in the WWE for a few years now, less than 2 years in the main roster. So I could see why that would rub some people the wrong way. But that, if it's for that reason, that's pretty fucking bullshit just because he spoke out. That's pretty stupid. But it's not like he's being buried. He just beat Ty Dillinger last night on SmackDown. He's headed for a United States Championship match, more than likely, at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view with AJ Styles. So I assume that Baron Corbin's push is obviously it's been curtailed drastically, but he's not being buried or, he's being toned down a bit. But no pun intended, I guess, given his physique, but he's not being buried or, kept off TV like a Luke Harper is. I don't know why he's off TV, but again, another issue for another day. It's just that they're not ready to focus on him right now as the main guy. I think they should have kept the briefcase on him. There was really no reason to take the briefcase off of him the fashion they did and when they did. That was really fucking stupid. But I think he could still be something down the road. I still like Baron Corbin a lot. I'm still very high in his potential. He's not great, but he can cut promos when they're not scripted. He can hold his own in the ring. We've seen that before with AJ Styles and Dolph Ziggler and a few others he's feuded with, Kalisto, Dean Ambrose. So he is capable of contesting solid matches, and I would hope that he is back in the main event scene at some point down the road. Just right now is not his time, which is why they decided not to shine the spotlight on him. So maybe at some point down the road. But if that's the reason why his push was halted was because of that backstage incident reportedly, that's pretty dumb in my opinion. Do you think it's time for Dolph Ziggler to leave the WWE? Yes, I've said this how many times before. I could not care less about Dolph Ziggler. He's got nothing left to prove, nothing left to do. That segment on SmackDown last night, holy shit, was that a waste of time. What a waste. What a waste. I felt like I wasted 5 minutes of my life, the same way I did when I was listening to Enzo talk before that Cruiserweight match on Raw on Monday. That was a waste of time too. This might have been an equally waste of time because just anything involving Ziggler is not going to go anywhere. Like he might put over Bobby Roode in his next feud, which is good for Roode. But really, how much does beating Dolph Ziggler mean at this point when everyone's beating the guy? I can't bring myself to care about him. And even, I think it's just better for him. Cody Rhodes was not really as bad as Dolph Ziggler. I mean, they're both great, but in terms of my apathy towards them, Cody Rhodes I just kind of gave up on in terms of being a future world champion in the company because it was very evident that they had no plans to push the guy on his own or as Cody Rhodes. They were going to give him the whole fucking Stardust deal and all that other shit. So I pretty much gave up on the idea of him being a world champion at that point. But him leaving was the best thing that could have happened. I'm writing a whole article about this right now for my website, nextdaywrestling.net. Cheap plug, check it out when it's up in a few days. But with Ziggler, it's kind of the same thing where it's just at a point where I'm not faithful they're going to give him any meaningful push. So they should just let him go. I mean, he should just leave. I thought his contract was up in August. I guess it's not. I heard somewhere, and take it for a grain of salt. Take it for what it's worth. Or with a grain of salt, excuse me. I'm messing up my idioms here. That his contract's is up next month. It expires next month. So I guess we'll see how it plays out. I really hope he doesn't stay. He just elicits apathy from me at the moment. And he probably will until he leaves and he can reinvent himself. If he doesn't want to do stand-up, but he can go and do fucking wrestle in Ring of Honor and Lucha and New Japan maybe. Be the next Bullet Club member. I wouldn't be opposed to that. That could be... I mean, he's pretty big on that kind of stuff anyway, so I wouldn't be opposed to it. But, yeah, Ziggler's got to go. Your opinion on the Rosemary Sexy Star situation. So I talked about this last week. I don't know in how much depth, but I did address it last week. It's bullshit, Sexy Star. It's bullshit, I did not. That quote from The Room. Anyway, if you've never seen the movie, good, the movie's terrible, but it's terrible in a funny way. So anyway... Sexy Star's apology, or if you can even really call it that, was fucking stupid. She didn't even apologize. She was defending herself, saying she didn't think she broke her arm, she didn't do anything wrong. Shut the fuck up. Holy shit. That was embarrassing. Disgusting. And then she came out and said something else. She issued another statement this past week about Cody Rhodes, like, cyberbullying her. It's like, lady, you fucking broke someone's arm. Of course people are going to be down your throat about it. Like, legit broke someone's arm. Like, fuck you. I never liked Sexy Star to begin with, but this further soured me on her. Not only the incident itself, which, again, like I talked about last week, so go back and check out last week's episode if you want to hear my full thoughts on it, but I'm just talking about what's transpired since then, and the fact that she's come out with these apologies, if you can call them that, and really trying to defend herself and saying that she did nothing wrong. It's like, shut the fuck up, and just... really, just shut the fuck up. Don't say anything more about it, because you're only putting yourself in further hot water with people. Like, people hate you even more now after what you came out and said about the situation and denying it, saying you had nothing to do with it. It's like, shut up. Shut the fuck up. What a liar. Next question, do you think the IC title needs to be defended on a more regular basis? Well, I think what they did Monday was a good step in the right direction. I know they didn't have it defended at SummerSlam, but they did have it defended on Raw this week. It's going to be on the line at No Mercy in a few weeks. So, I mean, not every single week, but I think Miz has done that better than anyone in his time as IC champion. Dean Ambrose was rarely defending that championship. Dean Ambrose has done, The Miz has done a great job with that between his reigns last year and his reign this year too, in defending it on TV against various opponents. He's faced off against Heath Slater, Jeff Hardy, Dean Ambrose. He'll be facing maybe Jason Jordan at the pay-per-view. He beat people last year like Dolph Ziggler and Kalisto and other people. Apollo Crews, he was defending his title pretty much every other week on the show, which was really cool. So, yeah, I think, again, maybe not every week, but every other week like they did with Monday's Raw and crowning a new contender one week and then advertising the match 1 week in advance, I think is a nice change of pace. So doing that again, I think would be, continue the prestige and restoring prestige, in the Intercontinental Championship. And his next question here, how long do you think Natalya will hold the championship for, and when will Carmella cash in? I mean, I thought she would cash in at SummerSlam. I was hoping she would. She did not. At this point, maybe by the end of the fall, I would say. Natalya just won the championship, so I'd be surprised if Carmella won it anytime soon. I guess she could cash in on Tuesday. Carmella cashed in, or she lost to Natalya on Tuesday's SmackDown last night, which usually means that she'll be cashing in soon. When you lose, that means you'll be cashing in the near future. Which just Natalya does nothing for me. She's a great wrestler, but a lot like Dolph Ziggler, I just cannot bring myself to care. So maybe Carmella can do a lot better with the belt than Natalya. I mean, it's only been a few weeks, but I don't know. I think Carmella would be a better fit as champion than Natalya. I could not care less about James Ellsworth and the fact they broke him up and they put him right back together by the end of the show. That was really dumb and unnecessary, but I think Carmella, all things considered, would be better off in that role. So again, I could see it happening Tuesday when they do the Natalya-Naomi rematch for the championship, but I would put it on her about towards the end of the fall, where she gets more seasoning and gets better in the ring and on the mic and as a character, blah, blah, blah. So I would hold off until maybe like November, if not December. And how long will Natalya hold the championship for? I mean, I could see Naomi winning it back on Tuesday. That's what they did with, that's exactly what they did with Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks. I don't think they would do that. I mean, I guess they could. I mean, who cares? But I could see you holding the championship until Carmella cashes in. And then Carmella cashes in, and then we get her and like Charlotte or her and Becky Lynch or whatever for the championship. Mark S., also from Facebook, he's got a few questions here. First one being, how would you have handled the Asuka injury situation before it was announced on NXT? I think the way the WWE did it was kind of the way they needed to do it, unless it was going to be at TakeOver where she dropped the title. There was no way they could have stripped Asuka of the NXT Women's Championship or have her vacate it, whatever, at the NXT tapings without word getting out. So the reason they announced it before anyone else was because they knew word was going to get out, and because when they announce it in advance, all the clicks go to their website and not all the other dirt sheets. They've done this before. They did it with Alberto Del Rio when he won the World Heavyweight Championship on SmackDown, on the first SmackDown, or maybe the second SmackDown of 2013, a few years ago. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't really surprise me really at all. But I think the way they did it was the best way to do it, to keep her undefeated. And, I think it's airing tonight, actually, as I record this. I know Asuka's appearing on the show tonight, so they kind of had to announce it on the website because, I mean, word was going to get out anyway, so I really have no issues with how they handled the situation. His second question, should SmackDown reintroduce some program similar to what WWE Superstars was like before and isn't needed for SmackDown? It's not really needed. It is kind of unfair that Raw has main event and SmackDown has nothing. For a while there, for a few months last year, Raw had Superstars and SmackDown had main event. But because they got rid of Superstars to film 205 Live instead, SmackDown got the shaft, and now guys like Zack Ryder and Mojo Rawley and Ty Dillinger and Luke Harper and Eric Rowan don't get any TV time. So, yeah, it's kind of sucks for SmackDown, which is why you never really see any of this. Not like people watch those shows anyway, so it's not entirely needed, but it is kind of unfair to SmackDown, so it's not like we need to create another show. The last thing we need is more wrestling in this company, is more television shows, more hours of TV. But I still say to get rid of 205 Live. That's just me, but it's not necessary. Like Velocity and shit and Heat were like good for what they were back in the day, but they were hardly necessary, which is why they eventually did away with them, because they were just, it was a waste of time. No one was really watching the shows anyway, so why bother recording it if no one's watching it? I know they do that with Main Event. No one watches Main Event here in the States for the most part, but I know it's like an international deal thing, which is the only reason why they still have the show, and they probably would still have Superstars if they didn't get rid of 205 Live. So, that's why, and I'm glad they have not reintroduced another Superstars or a secondary show for SmackDown, because it sucks for SmackDown, but we do not need more wrestling. That's the last thing we need right now. His next question, should Carmella have a successful cash-in with the Money in the Bank contract or not? I think so. I mean, it would be kind of weird, wouldn't it? Like, for everyone who has ever cashed in a briefcase, and only 3 people have cashed in and lost, and the last person to do so happened only a month or so ago. To do it again so soon with Carmella cashing in and failing would be weird. So I would not have her cash in and fail. I would put the championship on her. She's not the best wrestler in the division, but she gets good heat now. The whole James Ellsworth thing is, I don't really care too much about that, but at least she's getting over as a heel in the division, which is good. I will say that much. Natalya just, again, she's a great wrestler, but as a character does absolutely nothing for me, and her promos are awful. So I do think she will cash in successfully, and as I said earlier, maybe towards the end of the fall. His second to last question here, who would you have win the Fatal 4-Way for the Raw Women's Championship at No Mercy? In an ideal world, in a perfect world, I would have Emma win. She's not going to win, but I would have Emma win. Which, actually, you know what? Probably not. I mean, it would be cool if Emma won, but it's like no one gives a shit about her anyway. And putting the championship on her may not change that. I think Alexa Bliss is going to win. I would not put the belt on Nia Jax. She's just not good yet. She's not. And Sasha Banks, we've seen that a million times. So I would keep it on Bliss, if not put it on Emma. But even Emma, it's like you put the belt on her. Are people really going to care? It's like tomorrow. If Luke Harper won the WWE Championship at a house show, It's like cool for us internet fans that want to see Luke Harper get pushed, but it's like he's had zero buildup. But then again, that didn't stop them from pushing Jinder, so I guess I should just shut up because my argument's invalid. Anyway, next question: would Goldust, presently? Your question's all worded wrong. Is Goldust presently better on Raw or SmackDown? Could he get a future title run if he moved to SmackDown, do you think? I think the days of Goldust as champion are long gone. Goldust as IC champion would be pretty cool. I don't want to see him beat Miz for the belt, but maybe down the road, whoever beats Miz for the championship, I think Goldust as champion would be cool. But I can't even say he would be better on SmackDown because they're not even doing anything with Ty Dillinger and Luke Harper and guys like that. So why would Goldust be any different? And he doesn't even have age on his side either. So they're just not doing anything with him either. So yeah, I would. It doesn't really matter what show he's on. It would be cool if they did more with him. They did the whole R-Truth feud. He won, and that was it. They moved on, but they haven't done anything with Goldust since. So yeah, I would hope that they start pushing him soon or give him more television time because this new heel Goldust is fucking great. But you would never know because now he's never on TV anymore. So yeah, it's kind of a shame, but I don't think moving him to SmackDown would change matters all too much. At the Average Grunt, since you ranked the WrestleMania World Title matches for me, may I ask GSMU to rank the SummerSlam World Title matches as well? So he asked me if I would rank the Booker T Rock match from SummerSlam 01, and it was up to me if I could rank it or not. I'm going to say no because it's technically not a part of the World Heavyweight Championship lineage in WWE. I know it was the same title belt, but it's not the same title, if that makes sense. WWE recognizes the World Heavyweight Champion lineage starting in 2002 when Eric Bischoff gave the belt to Triple H. So that's when it starts. That's where I will start with SummerSlam 2003. So from worst to best, and there's a lot of stinkers here. From worst to best, World Heavyweight Championship matches at SummerSlam. Batista Khali, fucking terrible for obvious reasons. Batista JBL, just not a good match from SummerSlam 05. Batista Booker T. So Batista ending up in the final three matches on this. The only three matches involving Batista were all at the bottom. So poor Batista. The Elimination Chamber from 2003 after that. I did not like that match at all. I really didn't, but it wasn't quite as bad as the other three matches I just mentioned involving Batista, JBL, Booker T, and Khali, but it was still pretty bad. Kane and Rey Mysterio from SummerSlam 2010. An alright match. It was good. Nothing must-see, but it was good. From 2012, Sheamus versus Alberto Del Rio. A good match, but the feud was just not interesting and no one cared. Punk versus JBL. CM Punk versus JBL from SummerSlam 08. I thought it was a pretty good match. I thought it was a great showing for Punk. Probably one of his better matches in his time as World Heavyweight Champion that summer. Chris Benoit and Orton. This is where we kind of get into the very good territory. But from SummerSlam 04, Chris Benoit versus Randy Orton, which I thought was a great match. From 2003, Christian versus Alberto Del Rio. Awesome match. CM Punk versus Jeff Hardy from 2009, the TLC match. Fantastic match. And maybe just because it was one of my favorite feuds of all time, and I'm kind of biased, but Randy Orton versus Christian from SummerSlam 2011 and the No Holds Barred match. I would put that as number one. But really, any of the top three I would put as number one. Maybe the top two I think are interchangeable. But again, from worst to best, Khali Batista, Batista versus JBL, Batista versus Booker T, the Elimination Chamber match from 2003, that Triple H won. Kane versus Rey Mysterio from 2010. Sheamus versus Alberto Del Rio from 2012. CM Punk versus JBL from 2008. Chris Benoit versus Randy Orton from 2004. Christian versus Alberto Del Rio from 2013. CM Punk versus Jeff Hardy from 2009. And Randy Orton versus Christian from 2011. And we'll finish off here. We got a number of questions left, a handful. At Alpha_Awoken from Twitter. What do you think went wrong in the Jason Jordan Kurt Angle storyline? Why are people not behind him? He's a great wrestler. That's been evident in his matches with Finn Balor and John Cena. He's a very good wrestler. It's just that he has no charisma. Like, I know Jason Jordan's great. The guy can be a top star. But here's what people, I think, tend to forget. That before Chad Gable joined up with Jason Jordan, the guy was a freaking charisma vacuum. Was Jason Jordan. Chad Gable. Before he teamed up with Chad Gable in NXT, Jason Jordan lacked charisma. No one gave two fucking shits about the guy. He just has nothing interesting about him. He's not funny. He was great with Gable. They had awesome chemistry, obviously, but on his own, he's as interesting as month-old bread. He's super stale, so he's as interesting as watching paint dry. And I don't know, he just really... Why are we supposed to care about the kid other than the fact that he's Kurt Angle's son in storyline? And God forbid we get Jason Jordan versus Kurt Angle at this point. I think Jason Jordan, they really dropped the ball at this storyline and having him be the one to be Kurt Angle's son, because so far people are just not buying it, and people just do not care about the kid. He's not damaged goods at all yet, but they need to hone in on his character. I mean, again, giving him great showings like he did on Raw this week with John Cena is a step in the right direction, but it's not going to get him over because people like characters, and he's just not a character yet. So that's what we need to see more of going forward from Jason Jordan. At Lucas Rojas 27, he was on Wrestle Rant Radio with me last week, so shout out to Lucas for joining me on the show. You can check out that right here on the website at nextwrestling.net if you haven't already. Anyway, his two questions include, do you believe this buildup of Shinsuke Nakamura is definitely planting the seeds for him to face AJ Styles at WrestleMania next year? I saw a report that said they might keep the belt on Jinder up until WrestleMania, but like, what money match can you do with fucking Jinder Mahal at WrestleMania that people would pay to see? It's not like with JBL where he was built up so great, like every one of Jinder's matches ends the same exact fucking way. What, him versus... There's no one even for him to defend against in the near future. If he beats Nakamura at Hell in a Cell, who else is there for Jinder to face for the championship? Nobody. What, Sami Zayn? The guy's a loser right now. He just fucking lost to Aiden English on Tuesday. Who else? Bobby Roode, maybe? Like, that's it. They need to put the belt on Nakamura. Nakamura AJ is the money match for SmackDown at WrestleMania 34. If they do not do that, I will be disappointed, because they could do AJ and Orton, they could do all these other great matches, but the true money match to do, after what we saw Money in the Bank a few months ago, is Shinsuke Nakamura versus AJ Styles, regardless of who's WWE champion, at WrestleMania. That needs to be the top match for the Blue Brand, nothing else. That's the only match that makes sense. Next question of his, is this feud with the McMahons the turning point of Kevin Owens' career? Will it do it for him? Will it do for him what it did to CM Punk? It could. That's a great comparison. If we see the Kevin Owens that we saw in Ring of Honor... Now, I was watching this documentary. I think it's also on the network, like the first 30 minutes. But I think it covers this portion, according to what John told me. That it covers the part where they talk about Kevin Owens returning to Ring of Honor as like this rebellious babyface. Now, he's a heel, but I know he has it in him. Kevin Owens is great. I thought that segment on SmackDown this week was really, really good. And did he cross the line by saying, he thought that Shane would be better off dead? Maybe, but it got huge heel heat, and that's what Owens needs, because people love KO. I love KO, so they need people to boo Kevin Owens, and people love Shane McMahon, so it makes perfect sense for him to be the one in the heel in the feud against Shane, and people are going to boo KO when he's talking shit about Shane and his family and whatnot. So anyway, it could be the turning point. It really could be a turning point for Kevin where he's not doing the goofy stuff anymore, which is entertaining and great, and Kevin Owens is great in any role they give him. But he could become a more aggressive heel and a more dominant figure on the show if he does, stand up to Shane more often and stand up to Vince this upcoming Tuesday, and he doesn't run away with his tail in between his legs. I am really looking forward to see how Kevin Owens presents himself in that feud. Is he going to lay off? Is he going to lay out Vince McMahon? Lay off, yeah, right. More like the other way around, but is he going to lay out Vince? Like, I'm interested to see where they go with Vince and KO on Tuesday's SmackDown. Like, they really have me excited, even more so than the other three title matches they have on the show. The tag title match, the women's title match, the U.S. title match. I'm excited to see what they do with KO and Vince on Tuesday's SmackDown. I want to see how KO comes across. Is he a coward? Is he aggressive? Does he stand up to Vince? Like, I'm interested to see where they go with it. Maybe my hopes are a little too high, but I guess we'll see. At E13A from Twitter, his question was, push, repackage, release Bray Wyatt, Dolph Ziggler, Enzo Amore. Great question. Repackage Wyatt. Enzo and Ziggler, I would fire them both, to be honest with you, but Wyatt still has some potential left. The guy's a loser, but he could still be something if they turn him face or repackage him. So I'm going to say repackage Wyatt. release Enzo and push Ziggler, because I would rather have Ziggler be pushed than Enzo, because Enzo sucks in the ring. I still could not care less about Ziggler, but at least he could fare better for himself in like a main event role than Enzo would. So I would push Ziggler, repackage Wyatt, release Enzo. At Scarlet1, we'll finish up with their 3 questions here. First one, keep or erase Randy Orton or Batista? Whew, that's a tough one. Like, are you talking about their WWE careers? Because if you erase Batista, like altogether, you erase Drax, you erase his role in 007, in Blade Runner 2049. Like, you erase a lot of stuff there with Batista. I'm going to say erase Batista and keep Orton, just because Orton, I think, has had a bigger role. Like, I know Batista was huge early on. He's a big star, a future Hall of Famer. I saw that report last week. But Orton has been there a lot longer than Batista was. Batista was there on the main roster for 8 years. Orton's been here for almost twice that, 15 years. He's been here the entire time. He's never left. He's put a lot of people over, had a lot of great matches. Although Orton never really reached the heights that he should have, he has still played a bigger role in WWE history than Batista has. So I'm going to erase Batista as much as I love Big Dave and keep Randy Orton. Who are you expecting, or what are you expecting out of the Mae Young Classic finale? Or I thought you said finals. Finale, sorry. I'm expecting a good match. I think all the matches have been really, really good. I'm expecting a semi-dead crowd. Like, that's what I'm not looking forward to. So they're taping the finale after SmackDown and before 205 Live. And you've seen the crowds for 205 Live. If it's not SmackDown, if it's not the people who they paid to see, they're not going to care. Now, they are in Vegas. I'm sure Ronda Rousey's going to be there. Maybe they try to film some sort of angle to keep people in the building and to keep them interested, because I know she's from around there, I think. Maybe Shayna Baszler, too. Actually, I think Shayna Baszler is from, like, South Dakota, because I know that's where my girlfriend's from, and she said something about her being from there. But anyway, so yeah, I'm expecting a really good match. I think Baszler and Kairi Sane could have a great clash of styles, a really exciting match, but I'm skeptical as to how, lively the crowd's going to be after 2 hours of SmackDown. That's why it should be just filmed at Full Sail. They're not doing that. But, yeah, I expect a good match, but I hope the crowd comes alive for it. It's unlikely, but fingers crossed. And the final question for today, what do you think of wrestling, WWE and beyond, in 2017 so far? It's been a good year. I mean, all things considered, the brand split's going well. I mean, SmackDown isn't as hot as it once was. Raw is getting better, though. We've had some good pay-per-views, some not-so-good pay-per-views. I mean, WWE has not been red hot in 2017. It hasn't been in years. But it has not been, by far, the worst year they've had in a long time. It's been a pretty good year, I would say. Between the returns of Kurt Angle and the Hardy Boys, them signing Adam Cole and Drew McIntyre, and NXT fucking killing it right now. So WWE's been pretty good, especially NXT. 205 Live hasn't really taken off, but the overall product between Raw, SmackDown, 205 Live, and NXT has been, I would say, has been pretty good. In my opinion, anyway. I try to be an optimist. You might disagree. You probably will disagree, but that's just my 2 cents. And beyond WWE, I think it's been pretty damn good. I mean, I think 2017's been a better year for TNA, GFW, whatever. They brought in John Morrison. Eli Drake is their current world champion, which is really cool. So GFW is doing better. The behind-the-scenes stuff is really still kind of an issue after what I read yesterday with Jeff Jarrett. Find it out for yourself. But on TV, the on-air product has been a lot better than it has been in a long time. So GFW is doing better. They finally got rid of the fucking awful TNA initials, which is also a massive step in the right direction. But they're doing better. Ring of Honor is really, really good. Cody Rhodes has been an awesome acquisition by them. New Japan has always been great. Lucha Underground, they've been pretty good. I mean, I'm not sure about a 4th season yet. No one is. But hopefully we find out soon, because the show is really, really good and a great alternative to all the other companies out there. But yeah, WWE and beyond, and wrestling just in general has been, I would say, has been pretty damn good in 2017. I'm not sure if it's been my favorite year as a wrestling fan. I really enjoyed 2015 and 2016, which might sound crazy, but I really enjoyed those years. It's only going to get better going forward. But yeah, 2017's been a damn good year, I would say. But again, that's just me being the optimist that I am. Maybe I see things differently than other people, but that's just my opinion. And that does it, guys, for episode 197 of Hashtag AskGSM here today for September 6th, 2017. Like I said earlier, we are quickly approaching episode 200 and just a mere 3 weeks away. I should have an official announcement as to what episode 200 will hold on that Wednesday on the 27th in just 3 weeks. But in the meantime, and in between time, folks, if you want to send in a question for the show next week, be sure to tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. Last but not least, be sure to drop a comment down below with your question, and I'll be sure to include it in next week's edition. That being said, guys, enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Be sure to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, like I said, all that stuff is amazingly appreciated, and I'll catch your ass down the road.